is I, Tenchi Muyo Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire. Welcome! Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about something that's BESM related. Of course, it's Sunday, but yet not BESM related. Why is that? Because back in the second edition of BESM, they released books that were primarily focused on a certain anime. They did Dominion Tank Police, they did Bubblegum Crisis, and this one, Tenchi Muyo, which is the one I'm going to mainly talk about. Now, I did give a little review, and talked about suggestions for using Tenchi Muyo in your BESM games. But I wanted to talk about this book in particular because it's going to help give examples and help develop your game mastering a little bit when I'm sort of describing it a little bit. And if you want to check it out yourself, it will help. It gives you these suggestions. And you can adapt this book very easily to 3rd edition. You can just use the basic information and combine that with the 3rd edition rules, and you're fine. There might be some conversion rules that you might have to look up online for certain, like the abilities and stuff. I would recommend maybe checking that out just in case. At the beginning of this book, it talks about the subgenre that this anime is. It's the exotic's girlfriend, a subgenre of harem technically, but it's also called the exotic girlfriend genre. It is another genre you could use for a game. You could have this sort of setting where it would be one sort of main character that might be male and a whole bunch of other women. You can still have it that they're all the main characters in the anime too. All of them have their time to shine. It's just that they have this one person they're sort of revolving their world around. It's easy to do that. So it goes into details about the various episodes of the OVA and information from that. That's the one it focuses on, just like I was mentioning to focus on too. It of course does briefly mention the other series that were up to the point in time this was published. It was published around 2000, so there's been material since then. It doesn't mention that, of course. Now, it does go into the basics of role-playing in this book, too, just as if I talked about it previously. So it talks about choosing stats, using your points. It talks about the attributes that your characters would have. Now, this includes a few attributes that aren't in the normal book, because they're unique to this one, like heightened Jirai power. That one's not normal in the book. Then it gets into talking about, though, Jirai power, mass power, and big mechas, because these are primary things that they have that you would spend points on buying them separately. That's when you get into the subcategories of these. Now, normally when you have something that you buy that would have separate points, it's sort of freeform what you can do. That's the normal BESM. Like buying a item of power in normal BESM that I talked about, you would get a number of points to buy other abilities with. This one, it gives a specific list of abilities that would fit under these. It will tell you, oh, this ability here is a sub-ability of one of those 3, and it's a sub-ability of maybe these 2, this one alone, all 3 of them. It will mention that, like space flight. You normally could take something like that just as an attribute in BESM. In this system, it's not normal for a character to have it unless they specifically get mass or Jirai power, something like that. Then that counts as it. Now, it does go into defects. Most of these defects are the same as the ones you would find in the normal book, but it does include a few other ones you might be interested in using. It goes over the skills that you would use for this. You can see how it compares to the skill list in the normal book. It's similar. It's not exactly the way I described it, because it's getting down to each one of them individually looking at them, while I was looking at more of the big picture when I give my list suggestions for skills. Now, it does go into describing the characters. It gives the main characters and main villains of the OVA series, and it gives you stat blocks for them. So you could have someone play one. You could have someone either look at one to use as an example, too. Now, it does mention other characters. It gives a little bit of information about them if you want to use them as NPCs, but most of those you don't need to worry about statting out, the ones that they give the basic information for. Now, it does also list a lot of the mecha, so it gives the statistics for the mecha that were in the OVA, so if you wanted to use some of those mecha or build something similar, you'd have a starting off point and understand how they were built in the first place. Now, it does go over some of the basic rules, and they're 2nd edition rules. They really are. They're very similar to 3rd edition rules, except there are enough changes that I'm not going to go into details about them, but it tells you the basic rules that I've already described. After that, it breaks into the world of Tenchi Muyo. This is what I'm talking about, world building, which I've mentioned in my game mastering section before. This is the part where you get into a lot of the details about the world, the peoples, and all that sort of thing. This gives a full example of it. It gives a very in-depth, in-detail world. You don't need to go in as much detail in your world as you want. You can mimic it as much as you want, but this is actually a really good section if you wanted to read through and figure out how you would put things together in a world setting to use for your game. It gives you a lot of examples of information that actually might be useful to read through because it gives you an idea of what you want to do. I can talk about world building and what you kind of need to do for it all you want, but there's this level of you need to get an idea of what is the extreme in this case. What is the most details I can put together to make this the easiest for someone to run? Now, it does have a brief section talking about GMing, just like I talked about previously. This one's more in specifically for GMing in a Tenchi Muyo world, giving you some suggestions more based around there and talking a little bit about, but it gives those general basics of GMing. And the last thing that the book does talk about that I think would be important to mention is it gives a couple example adventures. This is another good one to look at because this gives you an idea of adventures that weren't in the anime but are ones you can run. That's what they are. These are not anime adventures but would fit into the universe easily enough that you could run it. And it gives you an idea of what to think about if you don't want to mimic the anime and do your own plot, of what kind of things you can come up with. And I think it's a good idea to at least check these out, especially if you do want to do a Tenchi Muyo game. I do recommend at least maybe getting a copy of this book or finding a PDF online or something, just to check through it. You're not going to use it 100%, but it's going to give you a lot of good suggestions. And even if you're not doing a Tenchi Muyo game, checking out one of these books that are specifically to an anime, they're not bad to do because it gives you a mindset of what I might need to do. It gives you an idea of not only the minimum, but the maximum I should do to build this world that I'm deciding to use a game in. So that's it for today. I talked about the Tenchi Muyo role-playing game system, which is effectively 2nd edition BESM. I went over the details of the book and how you can use it to enhance your own BESM games. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It shows your support for the channel, for the Empire, and for the work I do. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.